Hey, it's Tyler. I wanted to talk about crunchy versus rules light systems because it seems like that's an age old topic that will constantly get brought up again. But I want to tackle it from the perspective of someone who likes both of them, um, but does prefer crunchy systems. And well, I guess the too long didn't watch of this is going to be don't run a crunchy system in something that you're just going to pick up and play one or two games of, a one shot or a two shot. And that doesn't mean denigrating one shots as a concept, right? One shots can be great fun, but a crunchier system requires system mastery for the rules to not get in the way. The number one complaint I hear about crunchy systems is that you're having a great role play session, and then all of a sudden, middle role play, um, GM, how do we, what do I need to roll for a grapple? And the GM goes, I'm not sure. And because the rule definitely does exist, there's that temptation to go into the book and look it up and just completely destroy an action scene, um, rather than make up a ruling and then some player goes, but GM, I have a feat for that. How come he gets to do it without taking the feat? But my rebuttal to that issue is every game has a rule zero, even if it's a crunchy system, even if they have a rule for grappling. If you forget it, if you're not very well read on it, then you can make a ruling then and there. And if you have a good group, they should go with the flow. Oh, he's letting him use something he shouldn't really. That's okay. I'm going to preserve the flow of the game by not bringing that up. Then after the game, go, hey, technically you shouldn't be able to do that, right? I think it's fine to have a rules lawyer as long as they're, they only, the lawyer only speaks when the judge allows them to. When court is in session and it's not, the lawyer will have time to go over his case back at his office after the game. But yeah, so I think you're going to have a good time with either of them if you have a good group, and you're going to have a bad time with either of them if you have a bad group. So I don't want to get lost too much in the weeds of that and focus specifically on what the different styles of system do well. So let's compare Shadowrun 5th Edition and Reminisce. Reminisce you might know from the Super Smash Bros. Campaign that I played in on Abraham's channel talking about games. Go check that out if you haven't already. Great fun. I also love Shadowrun 5th Edition, but, and I'll make a separate video on how to run Shadowrun 5th Edition because Big Bad RPG has suggested, he's like, man, the system seems really cool, but it seems impossible to get into, and yeah, so won't go too much into the specifics, but just using those two as examples. In what are the issues with a rules light system if I've talked about the issues of a crunchy system already? Well, some of the issues with the rules light system is in Reminisce, great, you throw together a character in 5 minutes, nothing's getting in the way of the role play, but there can be some voids. And in the style of game that Reminisce is supposed to be played, the world makes logic within the setting of it's an old video game and there's stuff that doesn't make sense. Chicken comes out of the floor. You have infinite ammo. You can you get touched once by something and you're pretty much dead. That sort of thing. But there are rules light systems like Powered by the Apocalypse, which are supposed to be more grounded in a world where physics function as we recognize them. And when you have things that are just like fighting skill, well, what is fighting skill? If we take Bash in Reminisce and we're trying to apply that to a more grounded setting, Bash is just, okay, you're good at shooting, you're good at stabbing people, you're good at wrestling, you're good at unarmed combatives, you're good at all of that for one skill? Go and wrestle someone in the military who's had their basic close quarters combat training, but is primarily trained on whatever weapon system that they are meant to use, if they are even a weapon system operator in the military, and tell me if their skill at operating a rifle. Find a marksman in the military, or anyone who's got a decent college wrestler who, or a high school wrestler even, who has never touched a rifle in their lives, is going to destroy them in wrestling. Likewise, somebody who's trained, most of their adult life in marksmanship and rifleman's tests, who can shoot, a 2-inch group at 100 yards on irons, they're going to smoke the wrestler who's never touched a gun in their life. So there's an example of a rules light system kind of failing at that specialization. And okay, say we don't even care about that. It hurts the replayability, because whenever you go back and play another game of this, let's say I want to go in and play a fighter in Pathfinder. The next time I play a fighter in Pathfinder, they're going to be totally different. There's 41 archetypes. Now, is the downside of that, I have to read through the archetypes and see if I like them at all? Yeah. But remember, a role-playing game book, especially a crunchy role-playing game book, is not meant to be read from cover to cover. Don't read every single line. Read the basic description, maybe even just the title. And if you aren't interested at the title of the archetype, move on, right? Unless you're having fun reading through them. I'm a technical writer, so I have fun just reading through 600 pages of a book I'm never going to play. But for the people that have those time constraints and maybe prefer the rules light systems but want to try a crunchy system, don't feel compelled to read everything cover to cover. Right, just I want to make a new fighter. What does your fighter want to be good at? I want to make a fighter that's specifically good with he uses spears. Oh, we can make a phalanx fighter or a polearm master. Whereas in rules light systems, it's just sort of, the guy who's using the 10-foot spike that's made for formation combat, and the guy who's, fighting with this dinky knife, they both have 3 in melee skill. And maybe they're rolling the exact same things. And it's like, that doesn't make sense within the flavor of the game. And you can always add your own rules, yeah, but then effectively you're building a crunchy system on the fly, and you're going to have to write those down and keep track of the rulings you've already made. And so you've effectively built the crunchy system if that's what you're doing. So why didn't you just start with the crunchy system and remove the rules you didn't like? In addition to that, just what I said, in a crunchy system, there's nothing that says, in fact, there's usually explicitly a rule that says you don't have to use all of the rules. So if there are rules that are getting in the way of roleplay, kick them to the curb. Just like if you have a player that's getting in the way of roleplay, kick them to the curb. There's nothing to stop you from doing that, right? So yeah, a crunchy system can really add to that replayability and that God overused word verisimilitude of the world. Right? Go back to Shadowrun. You can have somebody who's really skilled with pistols, but not skilled with rifles, because you shoot a pistol differently than you shoot a rifle. The points of contact are different. With a rifle, you have to know how to get a cheek weld on the rifle. There's different ways to grip the rifle. You can have a C-clamp on the front of the gun. You can have an orthodox grip. You can have a this sort of grip, which I forget the name of, for if you can't reach out here, or if the front of it's sitting on like sandbags or a bipod or something, or if you're in a gas mask and you can't get a full cheek weld, you can put the your hand here and on this, and then your sight's going to be offset. But a pistol's totally different than that. And then it allows you to specialize even further. You can be specialized with pistols, revolvers. If you shot a revolver and a pistol, or if you played Metal Gear Solid 3, you'll know that revolvers shoot differently than semi-automatic pistols. So you're good with most pistols, but you're even better when you're using revolvers. And that doesn't change the math you need to do on the fly, really. because all of the math's already done on your character sheet. And that's the big thing you need to do when you're running a crunchy system. You need to have 90% of the math done beforehand. If you don't, and you're doing all of this plus 2, minus 1, plus 3, minus 4 during the session, yeah, it's going to bog down sometimes. And that's no good. But if you already know, the thing I'm going to be doing most of the time, I've built my character to be a really skilled revolver shooter. Well, you should know immediately what you need to roll to shoot your revolver. And now you can build an interesting stuff where maybe your revolver, you get really unlucky. The hammer, I dropped a pellet gun revolver a while ago, and the hammer is cast, so it's pretty brittle. It landed straight on the hammer, and the hammer snapped off. Well, crap. Now, maybe that's a single action revolver, and you have to switch over to something that you're less skilled with, and you just look at, oh, what did I get? I got a bonus 2 dice for being specialized in revolvers, so I roll 2 dice left, or 2 fewer dice. Simple as that. It's really quick math on the fly. Same thing with Pathfinder. Maybe you have weapon specialization with swords, and your sword ends up getting disarmed or sundered or something, and you end up having to pull a knife. Well, what does weapon specialization add? It adds 1. Or weapon focus. Sorry, weapon specialization is a different thing. Weapon focus adds 1, so now you just roll with the -1. That doesn't bog the combat down at all, right? Because you already have the big complicated parts of your thing. Your base attack bonus, which is going to be a big number. You can see it fly there in the background. Your base attack bonus, which, let's say you're a level 13 fighter, that's plus 13. Yeah, it can be difficult to roll a d20, get okay, 11 plus 13, 24, plus weapon specializations, plus 1, so it's 25, and I'm flanking, plus 27 to hit. And then somebody goes, oh, don't forget, I've got a teamwork feat, so we have outflank, so we get 2 more for flanking. It's 29 then, actually. No. That guy knows he's got outflank, and he gives that to you. He's already got that. If he's a teamwork fighter, he's a cavalier with the tactician ability, he should be role-playing, before combat. He goes, him giving you the teamwork feat for that combat is also, all right, I'm going to rush in straight forward and distract them, and then you circle around the back, and we're going to hit them. So you get a +4 instead of a +2 for flanking. Then we move on. We're still in the role-play, right? Then when, with you, your BAB doesn't move up and down. You always have BAB equal to your level if you're a fighter. So +13. I've already got that down written on my sheet. I'm using a sword. That's only +1 or -1 if I'm, or +1 or +0 if I'm using my sword and I get weapon focus or I don't. Flanking, that's something that's, if you're level 13 already, you've been playing with the flanking mechanic for God knows how many hours, you should know that you get a +2 for flanking. And you've just been reminded, well, you get a +4 here. So, does it require you to read through and understand all these rules beforehand? Yeah, but in the game, it shouldn't be bogging things down more than a few sessions, right? But once you've got the hang of it, but likewise, I wouldn't recommend you to run a game like Pathfinder or Shadowrun 5th Edition if you're just going to be running it for a very short campaign, 2 to 3 sessions, or a one-shot, because you'll have those hiccups, and then now that you understand the system, well, the game's over. So yeah, that's where a rules light system is much preferred. But if you're going to be running it for a really long time, and you're exploring all of the avenues mechanically that support the flavor of this character, a rules light system can run into the issue of you start feeling like towards the 10th session of the campaign or something, it's like, I rolled to hit the guy, and you can sort of, the mechanics for me drive my role play forward. I go, I just got this new feat that allows me to do this, so I just got a new trip feat that allows me to deal damage while I trip the guy. So I'm going to use my bill hook. I swing at the guy's ankle. I pull his ankle out from under him and then slam it down on top of him with my second attack. That brings me into the role play immediately. Whereas my eyes are kind of starting to glaze over by the 10th combat of some of the rules light systems where I'm like, Yeah, I rolled to hit him. What's going on? The the mechanics enforce you to pay attention, right? At least that's for me, right? That's my brain, right? One isn't better than the other, but I like crunchier systems for these reasons that I've outlined, and hopefully some of these things help you run crunchy systems. So, yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you prefer which do you prefer? Do you not have a preference? Um, have you had some of the like nightmare scenarios in either game where it just totally slows to a crawl? I've certainly had those before I understood how to run a game like Shadowrun. Um, and likewise with rules light scenarios where I go, why the hell's that guy with a shovel doing more damage than I'm doing with a gun? DM, this doesn't make any sense, and he just blurted out because the roleplay is just totally ruined by the rules light mechanics not making any sense in the context of the world. Um, and then too, I have a personal beef with like, we're over rulings, not rules. Well, I bought a rules book. It's the core rule book, not the core rulings book. Otherwise, I'd have just written it down and made it. But I have a writing degree, so I guess I'm a little biased in that in that nature, right? So yeah, let me know your thoughts. See ya.